Top 3 things you liked doing or experiencing at CRX. I'm surprised it took us this long to get to a CRX question. Um, okay, so my Crunchyroll Expo experience was basically thus. On Thursday, Thursday afternoon, I flew in, right? Which is was like I left at like 5 p.m. Got there at like 11. So because I was going back in time, so like I could got 3 hours back, and yeah, just kind of flew in, went to bed. Friday, I came into the con. The con hadn't started yet. Nothing was really going on. So it was just like me hanging out with other YouTubers. Like in the lobby of the hotel, I'd met Freddie W and Canepa, so that was cool. Then once I got to the con, Canepa and Giguk were just kind of standing around, and like we were just asking. Like none of us knew what me and Giguk's argument panel was gonna be, so we were all like discussing what that should be because Canepa was gonna moderate it. So then, I mean, he did moderate it. So I hung out with them for a little bit. Then I just kind of wandered around the convention center for a while. I watched Freddie W interact with fans on a bench for a while. I ate some food, walked around more, run into Miles, the Crunchyroll, the sort of face of Crunchyroll, if you will. And I talked to Miles and asked him like, what the hell is our panel supposed to be about? And he was like, yeah, just get up there and like fight about your differences of opinion. And he seemed to want it to be vicious. So I was like, okay. So I go back over to Canepa and Giguk. I find them again. We're talking about it some more. Canepa and his friends fuck off, and Giguk's like, I need a cigarette. And I'm like, oh, you smoke. You're the only other anime YouTuber who smokes. Let's go have a cigarette. So we go have a cigarette, and then he's like, I think I'm going to need a beer for this. And I'm like, hey, this is my guy. So we go down to the Hyatt Hotel, and we literally sit there and drink beer for like 3.5 hours. Like, we just sat there drinking and discussing YouTube for like 3 hours. Me and old Giguk. And taking hilarious selfies and posting them on Twitter. So then he remembered he had to do his lightning round. So we ran up. I watched him do his lightning round. We hung out a little more. And then we got another beer. Then we came back and did our panel. So it was the me and Giguk argument panel. It went really well. Then we were greeted by a guy from Bandai Namco who took a picture with us and gave us some free Xenoverse 2 download codes. And then from there, I did my panel, which someone gave me a beer at the start of. And so by the end of my panel, I was fucking drunk. So then I just wandered around in the green room for like 45 minutes, trying to become sober enough to like handle life again. Walked around the con brazenly drinking an open beer, which was great. Then there was the last panel, the anime and YouTube one, which I've posted up on Digi After Dark, and that's when Jeff and Arcata showed up. Immediately after that panel, Miles comes to get us to take us to the big party, which he didn't. He just took like me, Canepa, and Jeff, and a few other people who were with him, and we all went down to this gamer bar for this after party, which has an open bar, open food. It was pretty cool. So at first I'm hanging out there for like probably 30-40 minutes, not really talking to anybody because I don't know anybody back there and just kind of getting drunk. So I implore them to make sure that Giguk makes it to this party. Like I'm telling Miles and the other guy, like Giguk's not going to know how to get here. You got to get him here. So they managed to contact him. He comes over, and I'm like, let's all discuss this thing. So there's a big secret thing that the anime YouTube community is planning to do that I have not been a part of until this moment. That like no one invited me to discuss. Jeff apparently thought he had invited me, but he didn't. So there's a big thing the anime YouTubers are planning that happens to coincide with something that Crunchyroll is planning. So we wanted to discuss the possibility of combining the two things. And Miles was way into that idea. So I was like, let's sit everybody down and discuss this big idea. So we gather all the anime YouTubers, and it takes a while for us to all gather at this party. And during this time, me and Canepa start talking to this dude who's an animator for Ruby, who's a big fan of both of us, and is like a hardcore Sakuga nerd. And we're talking to this guy for a while. He was the coolest dude ever. He was this pink-haired guy. I followed him on Twitter. I think I mentioned him as like my #1 coolest person I met, because he was just super real and shit and was talking about animators, and it was really fun. And then I also talked to these 3 Korean dudes who are doing like some kind of startup where they're trying to fix exactly the problems I was talking about in my streaming video, and like find ways to like hook studios up with Patreons and like find new payment models and stuff like that. So that was exciting. So I met these dudes, and then finally we organized everybody into a group to discuss this big Crunchyroll and anime YouTube thing. And it goes on for a while, lots of interesting conclusions are reached, and then we all like got it because like they were kicking us out of the place. It was midnight, and that was the end of the bar. And then Freddie W shows up, and we all play this. There was like this 5-on-5 game called Killer Queen. That's like an arcade only game. And Freddie was like way into it. He was just like, "Everybody, we gotta play this game." And we're like, "Okay." So we play this game. And then we're out on the street, and Miles is leading me and all the other anime YouTubers, and we're all like, next bar, next bar. So first he takes us to this cool Mexican restaurant. We have some pretty choice Mexican food. Then we end up going around. We go to another bar. We were all pretty fucked up, and then finally we go home. So it was basically a night of just drinking with anime YouTubers, wheeling and dealing, learning all this industry insider shit that no one should have ever told me about, because I am definitely going to end up revealing all of it to the world. Though I'm avoiding it right now because I don't want to get kicked out of this stuff before I have a chance to see where it's going. Like, I want to get as much behind the scenes information as I can before I start getting myself kicked out of the discussions. But in any case, we were, so by the end of the night, I was shit-faced. Like, when I got back to my hotel, I was, like, fucking beyond gone. Like, world is spinning, feeling. So, the next day, Saturday, I was hungover as fuck. And all I had to, like, the only requirements I had at the con that day were to do an autograph signing at 1, and then a lightning round at 2:15. So I showed up to the con, hung out in the green room for, like, an hour and a half, did my autographs, did the lightning round, and fucked off back to the hotel and stayed there all night. And then Sunday, I spent the entire day flying from San Jose to fucking Rochester. So basically, I had one day of activity where I hung out with all these anime YouTubers and got drunk and learned industry insider secrets. And that was the cool part. And that was all really cool. It was really fun to do. But I don't know if it was worth it, considering that other than that, it was a day and a half of nonstop plane shit, which fucking sucks. I hate flying. I hate being up in the air because I don't want to do anything. I get a headache. I can't sleep. So I just fucking sit there and stare into space. And it fucking blows. And then a whole day of being, like, catastrophically hungover. So the top 3 things I liked doing or experiencing at CRX would be drinking with Gigak, drinking with everybody else in the group, the whole anime YouTuber group, and, you know, learning industry insider secrets.